The question before us this year, especially in light of the decisions we have made over the last several years, is whether we are going to continue to invest in the institutions that help make California great, or whether we are going to continue down a path, a downward path of disinvesting in what made California great. There are choices here, members. Do we delay for 1 year or 2 years $2.1 billion in tax credits to corporations, to businesses? Well-intended, they may even do some good, I will stipulate. But as a matter of choice, do we delay those for 1 year, or do we cut another $2.1 billion of K-12 education? Do we engage in intelligent tax reform, of which the governor's proposal and the Republican proposal, frankly, contains nothing? Do we engage in a debate about intelligent tax reform that takes advantage of federal deductibility and brings more resources into this state? Or do we eliminate child care and CalWORKs? Today, we want to discuss in some detail through this debate some of the myths and facts about the choices that we face.
The choice that the budget before us makes, that the governor made in his May revision, is to protect tax cuts, not to do tax increases, members, but to protect future tax cuts in the budget year. And he pays for those $4 billion in scheduled tax reductions, half of which would otherwise be paid by corporations, and half of which would come from us individually, each paying 0.25% more in personal income tax than we paid 2 years ago, but not one dime more than we paid in the current fiscal year, budget year, or calendar year. And to protect that cut, because that is what we're paying for here, members. Let's not get confused. What this budget pays for is a tax cut of $4 billion to take effect in 2011. And it pays for that tax cut, because we have to have a balanced budget, by eliminating the most successful welfare to work program in the country, by which serves over 1 million children and 500,000 plus families, and helps them get jobs, helps them be trained to become those jobs that everybody's talking about, helps subsidize small business employers and others to hire those folks to keep this economy going. And in order to not spend that $1 billion, we give up, we return back to Washington for redistribution to other states over $4 billion of our federal tax funds, our federal dollars from California. We send those back. And what would happen with those dollars if they were here? They are spent in our neighborhood grocery stores. They buy necessities for children. They buy food. They pay rent. They pay mortgages. That's what that money does. When you say we can't afford it, what we can't afford to do, members, is vote for this budget. We cannot afford to give up all of those resources, to give up our federal tax dollars, to have 1 million children facing homelessness, to stop, to not restore, to leave, as this governor's budget does, child welfare decimated.
So when people talk about waste, fraud, and abuse, let's deal with the reality that the ratio of state employees in California per capita are today the same as they were in 1968. In the last 2 years, we've eliminated 10,000 employees, not positions, employees, to the state government role.
Really? We can't afford CalWORKs? Really? We're going to get rid of child care? Really? We're going to starve the people, really? That's what this budget does, and that's what we're going to do, really? This is really our proposal for California? This is how we're going to restore the promise, really? Is that really what we're going to do? When people sit around a family table and say, you know what, we don't have enough money, they make cuts, but they don't kick people out of their families. I mean, this is this moral imperative that Senator Padilla talked about. There's a limit. We don't cast people aside. We're better than that. We're greater than that. You don't sit around the kitchen table and say, well, you know what? That kid we have playing football just eats too much. We got to let him go. We got to make cuts. We can't afford that anymore. We sit around the table and say, hey, you know, Sally, man, she comes home from that cheerleading and then that soccer, and she wants to eat. We just got to let her go, you know? I mean, we just can't afford her. And even though she comes with a scholarship, we still can't afford her. And even though she has a part-time job, we just can't afford her. We don't do that. We sit around that family table and say, you know what? We've got to take care of everybody. And if we've got to take a second job to reinvest in our family, we do that. And you know what? If we've got a brother or a son who's got a whole bunch of money and he's in the same family, we say, you know what? You got to kind of kick in. I know you won the lottery of life. You've got all that revenue. And, you know, you've got a lot of lobbyists working for you. You got a lot of people convincing us that, you know, for us to take your money is wrong, even though we raised you, even though everything that you have and have received is a benefit of everything that we've done for you and that your grandparents did for you and that their grandparents did for you. Even though we've done all that and you've tried to convince us, you've got to share too.
We stand on this floor on the 31st of August with a great sense of urgency to get to yes. But we also have the power of no. And we use that power of no not to win an argument, because it doesn't matter who wins the debating points here on the floor of the Senate. But we use our power of no because we know that the kind of disinvestment that this budget calls for is not the right thing for California.